block is called Jelly Roll Scraps, and it's just what it says it is. I've gotten a lot of comments from people who are beginners, and I thought I would start adding just a little bit more tidbits of information in my videos just to help especially the new people, and maybe something that some of us old-timers don't know about. First, let's talk about what a jelly roll is. The term jelly roll is a trademark of Moda Fabrics. They came out with these 2.5-inch strips. They're 2.5 inches times the width of fabric. So here is a selvage and here is another selvage, and this width of fabric is usually 44, 45 inches. And it includes the measurement of the selvage. They're always 2.5 inches. And other companies, other fabric manufacturers also produce these sets, and they'll call them strippies or some other thing, but the use of the word jelly roll can only be done from Moda Fabrics because that's their trademark. But we in the quilting community, we refer to any 2.5-inch strip times the width of fabric as a jelly roll. So when you hear the term jelly roll, this is what they're talking about. It's a strip of fabric, and usually it comes in packages of anywhere from 20 to 40, maybe sometimes more. And that's what a jelly roll is. Let's talk about now how you get a jelly roll or a jelly roll strip. Let's just talk about the strip for now. This is some yardage. This is the fold, and this is the selvage. And so you can see everything. I folded it once again here. So we have 4 layers of fabric. When you cut strips off of your fabrics, you measure off of the edge like this. So if you were going to cut a jelly roll strip or something comparable to a jelly roll, which is 2.5 inches wide, you would measure 2.5 inches from the edge of this fabric, and you would make your cut this way. The lengthwise grain goes along the selvage like this. So if I measure from here to here 2.5 inches, the lengthwise cut is 2.5 inches. And this is important because later on I'm going to show you how you can cut your own fabric for any pattern you like, any block you like. So let's understand here that this is the lengthwise grain. So your 2.5-inch cut, your lengthwise cut is 2.5 inches. Now if we take the jelly roll strip and we open it up and we subcut, we cut this strip into segments, and here again I have it folded just so it's easier for you to see. When you cut, the first thing you do is cut off the selvage because we don't want to use the selvage. And then in this case, since today we're using 4.5-inch cuts, we're going to use 2.5 inches by 4.5-inch cuts. I'm going to lay my ruler down and cut off 4.5 inches. And you could go all the way down this strip, and I'm going to cut 4.5 inches all the way down. And we'll open this up and get another 4.5 out of this. So this is our scrap, and here is the selvage we cut off of this 45-inch wide fabric. Here are 2 pieces. Here are another 2 here, 2 here, and 1 here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 cuts we got from one width of fabric. 9 cuts at 4.5 inches each. And this cut, this measurement here, is called the crosswise grain because it goes across the fabric from selvage to selvage. This is the lengthwise, it's the 2.5 inches we cut off. This is the crosswise grain. So later on in the next few weeks, I'm going to show you how to use an app, and in that app, you need to put in your crosswise, your lengthwise measurement, and your crosswise measurement. And so this is what it is on a jelly roll strip, the basic part of it. So let's get these out of the way now. And let's look at our block for today. This is called Jelly Roll Scraps. And you can use leftover Jelly Roll strips or parts of strips as long as you cut them 4.5 inches like we just did in the demo. And if you have leftovers from other projects, you can use those. That's why it's a scrap quilt. And that's the only patch that is used in this quilt. It is a 2-inch by 4-inch finished rectangle. Once it's sewn into the block, it'll be 2 inches by 4 inches. So we're going to cut it 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches. So since it is a jelly roll, you already have the 2.5 inch cut. And now you'll just cut off your 4.5 inch segments like I just did. For each block, you will need 18 assorted these patch A strips. Here's what the block looks like if you put 4 together. For this block, you're just going to follow the diagram here in the block and lay out all your pieces and start from the middle and start piecing them together. These two will be pieced this way, then piece these pieces, piece these two together, then piece them on the side, piece these two together and piece them on the top. Just keep going like that. Work from the center out to put your block together. And in just a few minutes, I'll show you the block as it's pieced and pressed. But I wanted to tell you that one of my goals this year is to show you how you can look at any block, just about any block. I look at a lot of Pinterest blocks and quilts, and I pick out blocks that I like, and I try to engineer them. So I want you all to be quilt engineers. And if you reverse engineer something, it means to take a product that's already made and you take it apart to see how they put it together. I hope to show you how to take a block you want, how to take it apart so you can figure out how to put it together. I have 2 apps on my blog. One app, you put in the size of the block, and then if you know about what size you want the quilt, you can figure out how many blocks you need. Once we figure out how to make the block, then we'll figure out how many blocks we need for whatever quilt we want, whether it's a wall hanging to a king-size quilt, whatever size you want. And then the second app I have will show you how to take these numbers, these patches I've been giving you since the first part of the year. Sometimes there's A, B, C, D patches and the size of the patch, and it tells you how many you need in the block. I'm going to show you how you can take the information off of this sheet, go to the app, and it will tell you how much fabric you need. As an example, I used my little app to tell me how many blocks I wanted. So I wanted about a 60 by 84 quilt. 60 by 80 is what I normally do. These are 12-inch blocks, so it told me I need 5 across and 7 down. And the finished size is 60 by 84. Then it says I need 35 blocks, set 5 across and 7 down. And if you look at this, it says, if you are cutting 2.5 by 4.5 inch segments from width of fabric strips, this is exactly what we did at the demo at the beginning. You should get about 9 pieces per strip. The width of fabric, the jelly roll, when I cut it into 4.5 inch segments, that's what I call them. For the quilt above, you will need 630 pieces, or approximately 70 width of fabric strips. That's 70 jelly roll strips. And you can get this information at your fingertips. I just have to explain to you how to do each of the different patches. Squares and rectangles are super easy. In the next several weeks, I'm going to be showing you examples to show you. We're going to start from very easy and we're going to go to the harder ones. So you can learn how to do this yourself. Let's get this block put together, and at the end I'm going to go and show you the 2 apps that helped me to figure out what I need for this quilt. You'll see as we go along. So stay tuned. Now let's take a look at those 2 apps. Now for this, you'll want to download your copy of the instructions for the Jelly Roll scrap block. I'm going to show you how you can take this information up here in the patches, this information here, and calculate how much fabric you need to make a quilt. If you go to this website up here, quilt-notes.blogspot.com, I'll put a QR code on these instructions, and I'll also put a link in the description below the video where that website is, and you'll want to bookmark this. Once you go to this website, scroll down here, and this is an ad, just ignore it. This is another ad, ignore it. Look for this. It says quilting apps. Click on that, and it's going to take you, more ads, okay. It's going to take you to quilt calculators. The first one is sizing a quilt. And this is where you're going to take the size of your block, the finished size of your block goes in here. And if you have in mind a size quilt you want, then we're going to put that information in here, and we'll see how many blocks we need. So let me just scroll down here so I can get the whole thing almost. Here is the block width and height for the finished size. So our block, the Jelly Roll Scraps, is 12-inch finished, 12-inch wide and 12-inch high. Now let's just guess how many blocks we want. Let's say I want a 60 by 80 quilt. That's normally the size I do. Let's put 4 in here, 4 across and 6 down. Then if we scroll down a little bit more, you can add sash and border, but we'll do that later because we don't want to confuse things now. We're just going to add the 4 blocks across and the 6 down and hit this calculate button. And you see these blocks filled in here. So the quilt width is 48 inches and the quilt length is 72 inches. Well, I want it to be a little bit bigger than that. So I'm going to go back up here, and I'm going to change the 4 to a 5 across and the 6 to a 7 down. And I'll press the calculate button again. And so now I have a quilt width of 60 inches by 84 inches. And the total number of blocks is 35 blocks. That's good. That's the size I want. So I would write it down, and I wrote this down on a piece of paper. 5 by 7, 35 blocks, and 60 inches by 84 inches, because you don't have to keep coming back. The next thing we're going to do is figure out how much fabric we need for this quilt. So let's scroll down here. And remember when we talked about the crosswise grain and the lengthwise grain. And if you look at this patch here, here is the crosswise grain, is the 2.5 inches. Remember we cut that Jelly Roll strip. And then here is the lengthwise grain is 4.5 inches. It's right on your little sheet. These are the numbers we're going to put into this calculator here. So let me scroll down so I can get the bottom. The lengthwise grain, remember, is 2.5, and you have to use decimals here. And the crosswise is 4.5. Now we have to figure out how many patches we need. So look here again, and you see right here, it says you need 18 patches for 1 block. But we have 35 blocks. We have to multiply 18 by 35, and everyone has a little calculator on their phone. So just multiply 18 times 35 and you have 630 patches. We'll put 630 in here. And you might have noticed that as I put those last numbers in, your results showed up instantly. It tells you here you need to cut 70 strips at 2.5 inches times the width of fabric. You need to subcut each strip into 9 segments at 4.5 inches. So remember in the beginning of the video, that's exactly what we did with our little Jelly Roll strip. And here it says for a total of 630 pieces. Now the last line tells you how much fabric you need for this. The fabric needed is 175 inches, or approximately 4.86 yards. So just remember that this number here, the 4.86 yards, is the exact amount you'll need. So you'll want to account for straightening the fabric, or if you make a wrong cut, or just any other problems. I would get 5 yards total. What you can do with this 70 strips, if you don't have jelly roll strips and you want to make this quilt, you can get, if you have 35 different fabrics, you can get 2 strips from each of those and cut those strips up. You can trade strips with your friend, and there's all kinds of ways you can do it, but this gives you information, tells you how much fabric you need and how to cut it. Those are the 2 apps, and they're both on the same page. Let's go through and just do another one kind of quick. Let's say the block was, we'll keep it at 12 inches, and we want to make just a baby quilt. Let's do 2 across and 4 down. So 2 blocks across and 4 blocks down, and we press the calculate button, and that gives us 24 inches by 48 inches. Well, let's just call that, it's probably a table topper. The total number of blocks is 8. I would write that down again. We have 2 by 4 is the setting. It's 24 inches by 48 inches, and the number of blocks is 8. Write that down, and then come down here and let's recalculate how much fabric we need for this one. The lengthwise grain is still the same, 2.5, and the crosswise grain is still the same, 4.5. But how many pieces do we need now? We have 8 blocks, and we know we need 18 pieces. 18 times 8, it's 144. Scroll down here. Let's put 144 in here. And now we need 16 strips, 2.5 inches times width of fabric. Subcut each into 9 at 4.5 inches for a total of 144 inches. You need 40 inches of fabric, or approximately 1.11 yards. So about 1.25 yards will get this small quilt. As the weeks go on, I'm going to be adding more of this so you can get an idea of how to use it, and hopefully we'll be on our way to designing our own quilts and resizing quilts and all kinds of other good stuff. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.